Hello and welcome to our video on acing your cybersecurity interviews. The cybersecurity field is one of the fastest growing and most in-demand industries today. However, with this huge demand also comes fierce competition for top jobs. That's why it's more important than ever to be prepared and stand out in the interview process. In this video, we'll be sharing tips and strategies to help you land your dream cybersecurity job. We'll cover everything from before, during, and after the interview. Whether you're a seasoned pro or a new graduate just entering the field, this video will have something for you. So sit back, grab your notebook, and get ready to learn how to ace your cybersecurity job interview. If you like this video, then please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. If you know someone who will get a lot of value from this video, then please also share with them as well. Without any further ado, let's get started.
All right, let's get straight into it, Kev. So I want to know what your recommendations would be for pre-interviews. So do you have any specific recommendations that you'd like to give to people on?
Before the interviews the first one is definitely doing lots of mock interviews. That would always be, even if you do one thing, do mock interviews. That would always be my advice, because mock interviews prepare you both mentally and as well as technically for the interviews coming ahead. So now mock interviews, you can do it in two ways. One is the behavioral, another one is the technical. For the behavioral round, you can always ask your friends to ask the generic behavioral questions, or you can use different softwares to do so. For example, Google has this amazing tool that helps you analyze your mock interviews and gives you some feedback. Similarly, for technical rounds, I would reach out to people who are in similar roles in the industry or just in security roles across the industry and take some mock interviews for you. That is more for scenario-based questions and basic conceptual knowledge. For more technical knowledge, I would utilize various educational platforms and do CTFs or challenges or different things based on that. For example, if I'm applying for different application security roles, I would go to Try Hack Me or Hack the Box and do different OWASP top 10 or AppSec related challenges. Similarly, for Blue Team, there might be other things to add. Surya, do you have anything very quickly to add on that?
Yeah, if you want to get more into Blue Team, I would say in general, having your own lab environment with the team, ingesting some log sources, and just familiarizing yourself with the ways you can do queries, the ways you can correlate data from different sources. I think that's pretty key. And in general, lastly, I would add is threat hunting. So how you can write queries for particular threats. That's probably a key skill for that for sure.
Moving on, the second advice regarding before the interview is reaching out to people in that company you're applying for and ask advice from them. Now, this advice could be generic or could be specific about the interview process. Any kind of advice helps rather than having none. And this is a key step because knowing this kind of knowledge can really help you prepare better and set yourself apart during the interview process. If you don't know anyone from that company, I highly recommend looking people up in LinkedIn in similar roles or related roles to the one you're applying and just reaching out to them. A good way to increase your chances of getting a response back is adding a note, a personalized note, when you're sending in that connection request. Moving on, my third advice before the interview would be analyzing the job description, because the job description will tell you things like what are some of the tech stack or type of questions you might be getting. For example, if the job description mentions Splunk or some kind of coding languages, there's a big chance during the technical rounds, they'll ask you to write different Splunk queries or ask you questions related to Splunk. So utilizing the job description to prepare yourself better, as well as highlight your skills throughout the interview process, is something I would recommend. That was my top recommendations. Surya, what are yours?
I would go back even before the interview, when you're applying itself. One of the key things I've noticed is references. They make a big part in people applying for roles. So most people, whenever you apply for job applications, you'll always see references. So references can be direct or indirect. So it might be people who are directly related to the role you're applying to, or maybe indirectly, like people who are just working in the company giving a reference to you. In general, what this helps you is basically it reduces the chance of you getting rejected at the start itself. You don't need to usually don't need to go through the ATS systems, resume review process, you go straight into the next stage. The first point I have is make sure you're prepared on your resume. You're going to be for sure getting questions on your resume. Make sure you come prepared on different sections of your resume. If you mention particular projects that you have done or particular tasks that you have performed, make sure you're have a brief description on what you had performed, how you had done it. You'll probably get questions on that. Coming to the next point, I'll say is on promoting yourself. I think it's super essential that you do that. Make your presence known within the community. This can be via social media channels, blogs, or even like the podcast that we do ourselves. This helps people within the industry recognize you and the type of content that you make, and also your expertise that you have. Those are my points that I have from a pre-interview standpoint. Going to the interview itself, Kaif, what are the thoughts that you have on that?
Well, during the interview, I suppose the first advice would be show up. Just kidding. No, okay, jokes aside, to be serious, the first point I would say is explain your thoughts out loud. I know you're nervous and you might be unsure, but the interviewers are not always just looking for the right answer. They're also very curious about your thought process and how you get there. And in your thought process, as you're trying to explain different things and trying to figure out the problem, you might be giving them a good understanding of the depth of your knowledge. Avoid long silences. Try to think out loud. That would be my first advice during the interview. Secondly, be ready to showcase your skills and your past projects. You need to be your biggest promoter. When people ask you questions like, tell me about yourself, or have you done any work related to the XYZ, be ready to really showcase and talk about your different projects. I've always noticed that in the introduction, when I talk about different areas of my passion or different projects that I have enjoyed, they ask a lot of follow-up questions and the conversation flows from there. This also helps you dictate the flow of the interview to some extent, because you want to be talking about things you have strength on rather than just leaving up to the interviewer to pick on things that might be a wide range of variety. So that's my number second. My number third is, again, come prepared. Please don't show up in an interview blind. At least do your basic research. That was all from me. Surya, what are your tips during the interview?
The first point I have is people in general are nervous while giving interviews, and it's okay to be nervous, but don't let that overflow and start compromising your answers. There are different strategies that you can take to manage your nervousness more, and make sure you're aware of that. And when you start feeling nervous, make sure you start using those strategies to reduce your nervousness and help you answer better. The second point I have is on showcasing your passion for the role and security as a whole. This ties into a bit where Kaif was talking about showcasing your skills and past projects. It's important that you are aware of the current happenings within security, your past projects that you might have done, or your promotions that you might have done via blog posts in certain topics. It helps you drive the conversation in the interview and helps you be engaged on topics that you might be more familiar with. The last point I have is in regards to using some sort of structure or methodology while giving your answers. It could be a STAR method or other methods that are available. This helps you organize your thoughts that you'd like to say, provide a story behind the answer you're giving. Yeah, that's pretty much from it. So Kev, what points would you like to give in terms of post-interview now that everything is done?
Cool. I think it's very important to realize that the interview process hasn't finished, even though your interview is finished. So there are things you can do after the interview that can really maximize your chances as well. And one of them is just being polite and sending a thank you or follow-up email, whether it's to the recruiter, whether it's to the interviewers themselves. Now, you can always look the interviews up in LinkedIn if you don't have their emails and send them a thank you note there via connection request. And that ties on to my second advice, which is, if possible, use this opportunity to add the interviewers and recruiters to your network. Even if you're not successful, they're now part of your network and part of your journey. And who knows, maybe in the future, some other opportunity can come up and you can utilize them. Lastly, this is just a general advice, which is take interviews long term. Interviews is, at the end of the day, kind of like a numbers game. And if you try to do a lot of them in a short period of time, a lot of applications, a lot of interviews, it's very easy to get burned out. Think of it as a long-term strategy. And for example, if you're a new college graduate or someone who's just looking to break into the industry, don't think that things are going to happen within a week or a few weeks. It's going to take months, even a year at times, to get you the job you want. So be prepared to take things on the long term, and please look after yourself. So yeah, that's all from me. Surya, what are yours?
I think the first one I have is being patient a bit after you've applied. I know we're eager to know the results of what has happened in the interview. Are we going to the next stage or not? Generally, for entry to grad level roles, it usually takes a good amount of time to get response, or sometimes no response at all. But in general, I would say for entry to grad level roles, a 4 week to 8 week wait is generally expected due to the amount of applications that they get. So just be patient. I know our eagerness sometimes takes us over. This is a good time for us to do my second point, which is on doing a quick review. So basically, once you've come out of the interview and had a deep breath just to let all the stress out, it's a good time to like write down some points that you had, like what went well in the interview, what points you thought that you did good, what were your key strengths in the interview, and then also look at the other side where you're looking at your weaknesses, like what do you think did not go well in the interview. After you've done that, you've got a gist of like, okay, cool, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, and then you can start focusing on how you could use your strengths more during the interview. And you can also look at ways that you can look to improve your weaknesses. So for example, you're weak on like current happenings, you're like not aware of what exactly is happening within the industry, so then you can take an effort on yourself to get more aware, start subscribing to newsletters or RSS feeds, and just in general start engaging more with the community, so you just be more aware of what's currently happening within the industry. This kind of ties back into the first process of continuous improvement. So doing interviews, as Kev said, is a numbers game sometimes, and you're doing multiple interviews at once. So why not take this opportunity to improve the next interview you do? Make sure you take the skill, or like take your learnings that you had from your current interview and apply them to your next interview you do.
Awesome. Just to quickly add on that, you can always ask for feedback to the recruiters and the interviewers themselves. Now, a lot of the times, they're a very busy person and they're dealing with a high volume of numbers, so you might not get anything back. So don't be disheartened. Try to do a self-reflection like Surya said, but any kind of feedback you can get from the recruiters is still a win as well. With that, I think, Surya, we have covered the top advice we wanted to give. And hopefully the audience found it useful. All the best with the interviews. Good luck. Again, if you need any personal advice or help, feel free to reach out to us. I'll drop our LinkedIn's in the chat description. You can always shoot us a message. We're always happy to help out. With that, thanks again for listening, folks. If you like this video, please drop a like and subscribe and share with others you think that'll be useful. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one.
See you guys. Bye.